Hare Krishna, and we are back with the Elevation to Krishna Consciousness by His Divine Grace Srila A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Prabhupada. Page number 13, Chapter 2, Hard Struggle for Happiness. In the revealed scriptures, the Supreme Lord is described as Sat Chit Ananda Vigraha. Sat means eternal, Chit means fully cognizant, Ananda means joyful, and Vigraha means that he is a person. Thus the Lord, or the Supreme Godhead, who is one without a second, is a fully cognizant and eternally joyful personality with a full sense of his identity. No one is equal to him or greater than him. This is a concise description of the Supreme Lord. The living entities, jivas, are minute samples of the Lord, the Supreme Lord, and being so, they therefore find in their activities the desire for eternal existence, for complete knowledge, and for happiness. These desires are evident in human society and in the upper planetary systems, Svargaloka, Janaloka, Tapaloka, Maharloka, Brahmaloka, etc. The living entities enjoy a longer duration of life, an increased amount of knowledge, and a generally more blissful existence in those higher planetary systems. But even in the highest planets in this material world, where the duration of life and standard of enjoyment are thousands and thousands of times greater than those on Earth, there is still old age, disease, and death. Consequently, the level of enjoyment is insignificant in comparison to the eternal bliss enjoyed in the company of the Supreme Lord. Loving service to the Supreme Lord is different in different relationships. It makes even the enjoyment of impersonal Brahman as insignificant as a drop of water in comparison to the ocean. Every living being desires the topmost level of enjoyment in this material world, and yet everyone is unhappy here. This unhappiness is present on all the higher planets, despite a larger lifespan, higher standards of enjoyment and comfort. That is due to the law of material nature. We can increase the duration of life and standard to the highest capacity, and yet, by the law of material nature, we will be unhappy. The reason for this is that the quality of happiness which is suitable for our constitution is different from the happiness which is derived from material activities. Wow! Look at that. The quality of happiness, suitable for our spiritual constitution, is different from material. The living entity is a minute particle of the superior spiritual energy of the Lord, which is Sat Chit Ananda Vigraha, and therefore he has the necessary propensity for joy which is spiritual in quality. Unfortunately for him, he is trying vainly to attain his enjoyment from the foreign atmosphere of material nature. A fish that is taken out of the water cannot be happy by any arrangement on land. He must be supplied with water. In the same way, the minute Sat Chit Ananda living entity cannot be really happy through any amount of planning conceived by his illusioned brain in the material universe. He must therefore be given a different type of happiness, which is spiritual in essence. Our ambition should be aimed at enjoying spiritual bliss and not this temporary happiness. Some philosophers claim that spiritual bliss is attained by negating material happiness and material existence. Theoretical negation of material activities as propounded by Sripad Shankaracharya may be effective for an insignificant section of mankind, but the best and surest way for everyone to attain spiritual bliss was propounded by Lord Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu by means of devotional activities. These devotional activities can change the very face of material nature. Hankering after material happiness is called lust, and lusty activities are sure to meet with frustration in the long run. The body of a snake is very cold, but if a man wanting to enjoy this coolness garlands himself with a venomous snake, he will surely be killed by the snake's venomous bite. Wow, have you ever heard this analogy before? Krishna, all these analogies should be really incredible. Wow, what an analogy. The material senses are compared to snakes. Indulgence in material happiness will surely kill our spiritual identity. Therefore, a sane man should be ambitious to find the real source of happiness. In order to find the source, however, we need some knowledge of what that happiness is. There is a story of the foolish man who had no experience with sugarcane. When he asked his friend about the characteristics of sugarcane, he was imperfectly informed that sugarcane resembles the shape of a bamboo stick. Consequently, he began trying to extract juice from bamboo sticks, but naturally he was baffled in his attempts. This is the situation with the illusioned living entity who, in his search for eternal happiness, tries to extract happiness from this material world, which is not only full of miseries, but is also transient and flickering. In Bhagavad Gita, the material world is described as being full of miseries. Abrahama bhuvanam loka punaravartino arjuna mamupetya tu kaunteya punarjanmana vidyate. From the highest planet in this material world down to the lowest, all are places of misery, where repeated birth and death take place. But one who attains to my abode, O son of Kunti, never takes birth again. Bhagavad Gita 8.16. The ambition for happiness is natural and good, but the attempt to derive it from inert matter by so-called scientific arrangements is an illusory attempt doomed to frustration. Those who are befooled cannot understand this, how a person is driven by the lust for material happiness. Is also described in Bhagavad Gita. Idam adya maya labdham imam prapsye manoratham idam astitam api me bhavishyati punardhanam. The demoniac person thinks, so much wealth do I have today, and I will gain more according to my schemes. So much is mine now, and it will increase in the future more and more. Bhagavad Gita 16.13. This atheistic or godless civilization is a huge affair contrived for the gratification of our senses, and now we're all mad after money in order to maintain this empty shell. Money is sought after by everyone, because that is the medium of exchange for objects for sense enjoyment, sense gratification. Obviously, the expectation of peace in such an atmosphere of gold rush pandemonium is a utopian dream. As long as there is the slightest tinge of sense gratification or desire for sense gratification, peace will remain far, far away. This is because by nature we are all eternal servants of the Supreme Lord, and therefore cannot enjoy anything for our personal interests. It is therefore necessary for us to learn how to employ our senses in the transcendental service of the Lord, and to utilize everything to serve His interest. This alone can bring about much desired peace. A part of the body cannot in itself be independently happy. It can only derive its happiness and pleasure out of serving the entire body. The Supreme Lord is the whole, and we are parts. But we are all busily engaged in activities of self-interest. No one is prepared to serve the Lord. This is the basic cause for our conditioning in material existence, and for our resultant unhappiness. From the highest executive in this skyscraper office down to coolie in the street, all are working with the thought of accumulating wealth legally or illegally. Actually, it is all illegal, for to work for one's self-interest is both unlawful and destructive. Look at that. Self-interest is actually destructive if it's not our actual self. Even the cultivation of spiritual realization for one's own self-interest is unlawful and destructive. Haribo. Okay, the point is that all activities must be directed to the satisfaction of Krishna and his service. Those who are not engaged in the transcendental loving service of the Supreme Lord wrongly think they are accumulating so much money day after day. Asha pasha shater badha kama krodha parayanah ihante kamam bhogartham anyayenartha sanchayan. Being bound by hundreds and thousands of desires, by lust and anger, they secure money by illegal means for sense gratification. Bhagavad Gita 16.12. Jai, we're going to stop here for today on this note. Yes, and we're going to continue tomorrow about description of basically the hard struggle for happiness in this unnatural material situation for us blissful spirit souls. Jai. So thank you so much for tuning in today, and the link to this book is in the description. This was Shravanam Diaries, and we will see you next time. Hare Krishna. Yes, I mention usually that there is a Gmail, shravanamteam@gmail.com. You can send your inquiries or feedback. It's in the description. Yes, so have a good day, everyone. Hare Krishna.